Thank you guys all for coming today. I'm really excited to host my friend Ashley Manta here, or Manta, like Santa, Manta. This is our fifth time that we've hosted her for a sex and cannabis webinar, an educational class. It's always our most popular one by far. If you go on our Friends of the Farm cannabis lecture series. But for those of you guys who don't know Ashley, which I know a couple of you guys are more familiar, she's also known as the Cannasexual. That's her cannabis and sex education brand that she's created. She's an award-winning sex educator, relationship coach, and author, recognized as the leading authority in mindful integration of cannabis and intimacy. She coined the term cannasexual to describe individuals who consciously combine sex with cannabis and relationships to deepen connection, enhance pleasure, and support healing. Through her brand, she's become a sought-after expert on pleasure, communication, and embodied intimacy. Her work is rooted in sex-positive education, trauma-informed coaching, advocacy for conscious cannabis use. She supports singles and couples in improving communication, releasing shame, and cultivating intentional connection and intimate experiences. In 2020, she authored The CBD Solution to Sex, which was published in partnership with Mary Jane and Chronicle Books, which is a practical guide on CBD to enhance sexual wellness and reduce performance anxiety, which is pretty cool. She's also been a featured contributor for Playboy, where she served as a Playboy advisor. She's also been on Vice, if you guys have seen that, a really cool episode. What was it called again?
Slut Ever.
Yeah, and then what was the specific one?
It was just the sex and cannabis.
Yeah, sex and cannabis. It was really great, so definitely check that out. She's also a certified body sex facilitator, having trained with the legendary pleasure pioneer Betty Dodson, which is pretty cool. So she's here today to talk to us a little bit more about cannabis, communication, couples, and then to teach us some really cool, handy skills. So, all right, thank you, Ashley, for being here.
Thank you, Candace. Thank you, Glass House and Pottery, for having me. Friends of the Farm. It is such a joy to get to do this class every year for Valentine's Day, and we, have gone in a lot of different directions. But this year, I really wanted to bring it home to couples and presents and really practical skills that you can use whether you are solo or with a partner, because all the things I'm going to teach you can absolutely use in your masturbation practice, and I would recommend that you do, because it's wonderful to pleasure yourself with a lot of intentionality and thoughtfulness, but it's also really great to kind of expand your palette of what's possible in sex. We get very stuck in this heteronormative, single trajectory box of okay, you make out a little bit, and then there's a little bit of groping and maybe a little bit of oral to get everything ready for penetration, which is the main event. And then as soon as it's done, as soon as one person comes, typically one particular person, then the show is over.
That's a gross generalization.
Unfortunately, that is what's represented in porn, which is not the true nature of reality. So I really invite people to co-create their own experience in intimacy and to figure out what's alive for you on any given day or night and with this person at this time, because things can shift so quickly, right? We live in a very chaotic world, and with hormones and sleep and stress and work and so many things that can get in the way, it's really helpful to be able to assess your capacity on any given day and then kind of plan from there what's actually really authentic for you to explore together, rather than being sex means X, Y, and Z, so we have to do those things. I want to help people feel really free to be I just want to make out with you, and I really like it if that was okay, and then we don't have to have it go the whole way to penetration, and otherwise we can't consider it sex. Well, what if we could? So what I love about cannabis is, especially when used in ways that can be somewhat intoxicating, mildly, I think less is more approach is helpful, but cannabis really can help expand your mind, expand your definition of what's possible. It can, spark your imagination and your creativity. It can help you be more present in your body when used intentionally. And that was why, sex and cannabis was something that I wanted to combine 15 years ago. God, was it that long ago? That's so weird. When I first moved to California in 2013, no one knew me and I didn't know anyone. And I was still very much a baby sex educator. I was just getting into having access to good quality cannabis products after living in Pennsylvania my whole life, which was until quite recently a prohibition state and still has a very strict medical program. It's not recreational yet. So when I moved here, I was able to get a medical cannabis card. And I remember walking into a dispensary the first time and I felt like I was in Willy Wonka's chocolate factory. Like all of a sudden, there were all these different strains, and there were edibles, and there were topicals, and there, like, anything you could think of was possible. And I didn't even know where to start. So I ended up in 2014 having a business meeting at the SLS Hotel in Beverly Hills with Brittany, who was the marketing director of Foria at the time. And she handed me a little bottle of oil. She passed it across the table as we were enjoying caparinas at the bar. And she's like, I want you to put this on your pussy, let it sit for 20 minutes, and then masturbate and see what happens. And I was like, I don't know what life choices have brought me to this point, but they've all been the correct ones, like, for sure, because this is excellent. And I had always had pain with penetration from, like, trauma and things, life be life in. And this product allowed me to have penetrative sex for the first time without pain. And that was a game changer for me. And that was the moment where my sex educator brain went, wow, there's nobody talking about sex and cannabis right now from a sex positive, queer inclusive, body positive, trauma informed lens. And Cannasexual was born. And it has allowed me to do a lot of experimentation and to get to know incredible farmers and manufacturers and brands that really care about the plant and really care about the help that the plant is giving to people, and see it as a medicine and a healing tool and not just a way to get high. And I love that. And it's also a fun way to get high. Like, it can be both. But when, especially for couples, for intimacy, for people who have had trauma, like, it's really helpful to take a very slow and deliberate approach to figuring out what's going to work best for you. And so what I found as I was, like, standing in the dispensary, like, my eyes as big as saucers, trying to figure out, like, where do I even start? I was like, okay, I think I just need to get, like, a gram of this and a gram of this and a gram of this, and then I'll get, like, one thing of edibles, and let's just try different things and see what works. And what I found was that using a little bit of whatever I was going to use, waiting until I felt it, and then masturbating was a wonderful way to figure out what worked for me sexually, because that way I knew exactly what I was taking, how long it took to kick in, and I had control of all of the variables. The music, the lights, the incense, the position, how quick or slow I was going. I could really make it my own and set myself up for, like, maximum success. And it's like, okay, under perfect circumstances, does this get me closer to where I want to be in intimacy and pleasure, or is it bringing me farther away? And some strains did. Some products did get me farther away. They made me anxious or sleepy, or, like, I just wanted to watch Netflix, which were not, like, particularly sexy headspaces. And that's okay. That was really helpful data to have. And then there were other things that I'd try and I'd be like, oh, hey, okay, yeah, this is good. We like this. My touch is, like, enhanced. I'm having a lot of really great sensations in my body. I'm feeling blood flowing to where I want it to go. Things are more sensitive, like, different erogenous zones are coming online in different ways. Okay, this is working. And I would write it down, because if anyone has smoked weed before, you know that your memory, not awesome with weed sometimes, right? Like, it's a hazard to the job, which is fine, but I have ADHD, so I can't remember what I ate for lunch yesterday on a good day, much less with weed. So I had to keep, like, a little log of, this is what I smoked, or, you know, this is the product I used, how I consumed it. Did I smoke it? Did I vape it? Did I eat it? You know, this is how long it took to kick in. This is when it reached what I would consider, like, maximum effectiveness, and how long that roughly lasted. These are the effects I noticed. I was tingly. I was giggly. I was creative. I was fantasizing like a motherfucker. I was, like, having vivid incredible erotic experiences, whatever it was. And then I, created a body of knowledge that was unique to me. And that was really helpful when I'd have a partner over and we're like, okay, what do we want to do? Okay, well, how do I want to feel? Well, I want to feel these things. Okay, well, let's look through my little list. Okay, that's the thing that I'm going to reach for to help feel those things. Come on in, y'all. Thanks for being here. You're not late. You're perfect. So once I started to kind of get the hang of, okay, what am I going to use for sex? What's going to be the right thing? Then it became, now that I know how to masturbate and figure out these proper strains or products, what do I do in a partnered space? Because coming from a sexual violence prevention background, coming from a trauma-informed lens, I'm really concerned about consent. You cannot legally consent when you're intoxicated. So my golden rule for sex and cannabis became negotiate before you medicate. That it's good to do anyway. Like even if you're not medicating, it's good to have a pre-talk and what I call an erotic huddle. And right, like you just kind of brain share a little bit and talk about what you're up for and what you'd like to co-create together. And then if you do plan to consume, what are you thinking of consuming? What are you hoping it's going to do for you? What kind of timing are we looking at? Are we smoking or are we doing edibles? Because edibles, you're looking at a much bigger time commitment, both for onset time as well as duration. Especially that we live now in the age of GLP-1s, which slows down your digestion, and thus things hit you slower and they stay in your system longer, right? We don't even think about these. We weren't thinking about this 10 years ago, but now everybody's on Ozempic. So it's like, okay, we kind of need to have these conversations, because if you've got somewhere to be in 2 hours, that's not going to work out for you if you just took an edible. So these are all discussions that are really helpful to have alongside what is on the table and what's not on the table. When somebody's stoned off their gourd, not that I recommend that for sex anyway, but like it happens, that's not the time to be like, hey, I know we've never done anal before, but how about it? Like, no. We don't surprise with new things. We don't suddenly try to, sneak one in. Like, that's not cool. Coming from a place of integrity, coming from a place of really mutual respect and honoring each other's bodies is the way to go. That is how you get repeat customers, if you will, right? Like I'm putting together a class called How to Be the Guy That Gets Invited to All the Sex Parties. And like, it's a skill set to be really respectful and responsible with somebody else's body, and especially when you're dealing with sex in altered states. So what's on the table, what's not on the table. And the biggest thing that I think is important to talk about that a lot of couples forget is, how do I want to be taken care of if things go a little bit sideways? If I do overconsume, if I start to get anxious, if I'm getting distracted, if I'm not really present anymore, which can happen, right? Like we've all greened out, it happens. What do you need in that moment? Do you need water? Do you need snuggles? Do you need to get wrapped up in a blanket like a sushi burrito? Do you need alone time? Like what's going to be helpful for you in shifting gears to a supportive space? And that's also part of aftercare, right? Like whether you're having a difficult reaction or not, like it's nice to come back down to earth slowly. So having all of those discussions is really useful. What does it look like, sound like, feel like when you're having a good time? What does it look like, sound like, feel like when you're not having a great time? And how can I tell the difference? Because some people get nonverbal especially when they're consuming. Like you're just kind of floating in your happy place and life is groovy and like, what are words even? And so finding other ways of being able to communicate ongoing consent and things are still working. Thumbs up, everything's great. Or tap, 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 like I'm done, you need to check in with me. Really, really helpful to kind of lay out. Questions about any of those things so far? Okay, great. So I'm a big evangelist of hand sex. And what I mean by that is like pussy massage and hand jobs. And a lot of people that are sex educators focus a lot on oral, which is rad. And I love that for them. And I think it's a very valuable skill set to have. But one of the things they don't tell you about oral, especially on vulva owners, is that oral requires foreplay. It is not itself foreplay. and not enough people that don't have vulvas know that. They're like, okay, I'm kissing you. Okay, I'm gonna go down on you now, and I'm just gonna like attack your clit with my tongue. And I'm like, under no circumstances.
Where do you find these guys?
Tinder. It's bad. It's really not awesome. But it's because it's what they see in porn. Like, I could go on a whole other rant about choking becoming way more common when it's super, super, super dangerous. Like, these things that are modeled in porn, people think that that's sex ed, and it's not. You're watching The Matrix. Like, you can no sooner do the things that you see in porn as you can dodge bullets. But for some reason, people have no problem trying to imitate the things they see in porn to their detriment. So besides the fact that I find receiving oral to be a little bit intense as like a starter menu item, I also, on the giving side, I have TMJ. I don't actually like the taste of cum and any bodily fluids really at all. So I don't love giving blowjobs. And I believe in my heart that you should not perform sex acts that you don't enjoy giving. Like, if it doesn't spark joy, don't. Just don't. You don't have to do everything. Like, and I think there's a lot of pressure on people to do, and on men too. Men are expected to be these like oral aficionados because people think that that's all that women want. And it's like, no, like there's nuance. There's a lot of diversity in people's preferences, and it's really helpful to have a conversation like, what do you like? What turns you on? What are the things that you like to start with, and how do you like the flow to go in your evening? So helpful. So all of that is to say, I found there to be a huge knowledge gap around erotic massage, regardless of genital configuration. And I decided to make it my mission to make hand jobs and pussy massage cool again. So here we are talking about hand jobs and pussy massage on a Saturday afternoon in Los Angeles, which fills my heart with joy. And where this intersects with cannabis is a couple of different ways. One is for vulvas, and notice I said vulva, not vagina. This is a vulva. This is a vagina. You would not refer to your face as your throat, probably. I hope. But for some reason, people are like, it's a vagina. I'm like, it is not. That's one part of it, but not the most important part, arguably. So vulvas need to marinate in THC. This is not a putting it on like lube situation. Lube is great because you can just put it on and go. THC infused oils and various other cannabinoid infused oils need time to soak into the nerves and capillaries and mucosal membranes of the vulva. So this is something that takes a little bit of planning. You want to put it on at least 20 minutes before sexy fun times, up to 45 minutes. Like, you have a nice window, and it will last quite a while, easily an hour or so. And all over the clit, the inner lips, the vaginal opening, like all up in there. The thing to keep in mind is, well, two big things. One, if you're going to be using infused oil on the pussy, your pussy is now an edible. And you don't necessarily know what the dosing is. So if you go down on a pussy that has cannabis oil all over it, you're about to dose yourself. And hopefully that's cool for you. But for those of us on the like 5 milligram train, that's probably too much. So another, score one for hand sex, because you don't have to worry about getting high from your hands. The other thing to keep in mind is if you are going to be doing some kind of barrier, including sex, something with condoms, something with dental dams, oil degrades latex. So latex and oil, not friends. You can use non-latex things. Nitrile is completely compatible with oil. So nitrile and oil, besties. Latex and oil, not friends. So.
Sorry, Professor, just one other thing.
Please.
You want to make sure the product itself is okay for use on sensitive areas. For example, we have this amazing bomb which we want to send everybody home with.
Yes.
Use this beforehand, but then wash your hands really good. You don't want it anywhere near.
Right.
It's amazing for massage, but it has a little menthol in it.
Yep.
And don't tell me how I know. Like,
Yep.
It's bad.
Yes.
You will not, your friend will get mad.
No,
We're also
thank you.
talking about the Mama tincture though, and this one that's for sleep. Ashley said that you could use for sex, right?
Yeah. The only thing it doesn't have is very much THC in it, which like THC is the best for sex. But CBD and CBN, let's see. Like it's going to be better than nothing. So, and looks like there's a tiny bit of THC in it, which is what you need to make anything go. So, yeah, I would say give it a shot. But anything that you put on, to your point, absolutely. You want to make sure that it is compatible with your bits. And some people like that peppermint menthol sensation. They're like, bring it on. I like that intensity. Maybe they like the cooling or the warming lubes. Love that for them. Other people are like, absolutely the fuck not. And so figure out where you are on that spectrum and choose your products accordingly. Also, look out for things that might irritate the vaginal mucosa. Things like parabens, glycerin, propylene glycol. One thing that I see they put in a lot of arousal balms is something called arginine. It's an amino acid, but it causes herpes outbreaks. It also increases blood flow. So if you don't have herpes, it's great. If you do, you could be looking at an outbreak. So and because herpes is incredibly common, have it. It's just something to be aware of. So read your labels, know what your body needs and doesn't need, and make sure that you're choosing products that are appropriate for different parts of your body, especially the mucosal membranes. Excellent point. So pussy massage, there's a lot of different ways to do it. And some people really like the kind of clit rubby, jammy, pull on the G-spot thing. So like no shade to that for those who enjoy it. However, that is not most of the vulva owners I've spoken to. People tend to like slow, sensual, deliberate strokes with eye contact. So my favorite position for giving a pussy or hand job, pussy massage or hand job, is to have the receiver lying on their back on somewhere comfortable where they are just cozy, head is elevated so you can make eye contact, and then the giver is going to sit between the receiver's legs with the receiver's legs on top of theirs. So my hips are a little bit elevated, I'm spread out. My giver has two very available hands because two hands are always better than one. If you're propped up on one elbow and doing stuff with one hand, you're robbing yourself of a whole other hand. So having the receiver lie on their back, going up and down the lips, even just like starting with a hand on the pussy and a hand on the heart is a really beautiful way to start and just like help your receiver get grounded. Breathe with them, encourage a lot of deep vocal breaths. Another thing I especially like to tell my vulva owners when they're receiving is, I don't need you to perform for me. I don't need you to like amplify your moaning so that I know that I'm doing a good job. Like, I just want you to enjoy it. So if that's more quiet, like, that's fine. I don't need, yes, oh my God. Like, my ego doesn't need that. It's fine. So the other thing is, I don't need you to come. Like, I just want you to enjoy what's happening as much as you possibly can for as long as you want. And if orgasm happens, maybe multiple orgasms happen, great. And if they don't, it doesn't feel like a waste of my time. And so I like to kind of create that context for my receiver so that they can relax and they don't feel like, oh my God, are you getting tired of this? Am I taking too long? I'm like, no, I'm good. I'm here for the duration, okay? And if you do have time constraints, then presence that up front. Like, I'd love to do this for 15 minutes. Okay, great. Now I know that for the next 15 minutes, I don't have to stress because you've already committed to that time frame. So yeah, starting with a hand on the pussy, hand on the heart, nice, deep, connective breaths. I'd like to offer genuine compliments. Like, we don't compliment each other's genitals as much as I think we should. And not just like, oh, you're so hot, but like, wow, you're really amazing. Your body is a wonder. Like, I feel so lucky that I get to be touching you. Like, I mean, don't lie, don't blow smoke, don't tell somebody that, you know, they have a 12-inch dick when it's not. Like, we all know you're lying, but like real, true, genuine, authentic compliments are often really well received. And it's an opportunity to just like share admiration for your partner's body and another way to kind of honor them. So I'm going to show you some quick moves that you can try out at home. One is to, I'm used to doing it on an actual pussy. You can take your thumbs and go up the outer lips, up and down the outer lips. And you can also take your thumb and forefinger and just kind of like gently pinch and massage. And I like to start from the outside and work my way in, like you're eating at a fancy dinner place, right? So I don't go straight for the clit. That's something that happens maybe 5-10 minutes in. I'm focusing on the pubic mound. I'm focusing on the outer lips or the inner lips. I'm doing a lot of like full coverage moves with my whole palm, or like both fingers on both hands kind of going up and down, or my thumbs going up and down, going over like above the clit rather than like over it directly. So like kind of making a half moon shape on top of it. Those are all really lovely ways to kind of start and work in slowly. When you do finally start to get a little bit more inside, I like to take my thumb and finger and go up and down the labia, the inner labia. So those could be tiny little tubular inner labia like these, or they could be beautiful long taffeta ball gown labia. And they're all awesome. And we love all the labia. And a lot of people with vulvas have shame about how they're built. And so that's another time to be like, oh my God, this is so cool. I love the texture or the shading, or like what a pretty pink color or pretty brown color or whatever like is true for you. And then I like to go between the inner and outer labia with my thumbs, is a really fun move. And then I like to do another move where I cover it and I press with the heel of my hand and I push in right over the opening. So I'm kind of creating like a percussive sensation on the pussy. And I did this to my demo. So I taught this as a live demo class on Sunday downtown, which was epic. And my demo model was like, whoa, what was that? That was because I hadn't done that move to her before. And she was like losing her mind. So the thing with all these moves that I'm explaining is that not every move is going to work on every person. So it's nice to have a lot to choose from. So you can be like, okay, well, how about this one? Okay, how about this one? Oh, you like that first one? Okay, great. Let's do more of that. And then you can vary speed, pressure, all of those things. Even if you are using a cannabis oil topical, that does not replace the need for lube. All hand sex is a lube requiring activity. Like, I cannot overstate the importance of lube. A lot of people think like, oh, if you're turned on enough, you'll just be wet. Maybe you will be, but the vaginal wetness that is produced is not the proper viscosity or has the proper staying power to lubricate an entire pussy massage. It just doesn't. So it's always good to supplement. I like to use a silicone lube because it lasts longer. If you're somebody who's like, I don't like silicone, it stains the sheets, or it's too slippery. Okay, cool. Use water-based. That's fine. Make sure that you don't buy your water-based lube at a drugstore. If it's made by KY or Astroglide, just don't do that to yourself. It's not nice. Go up to Pleasure Chest on Santa Monica and get yourself some Sliquid or some Steel or like one of the good lube brands that don't irritate vulvas. So ensuring that your hand is covered in lube. I actually like to use gloves because it smooths out all the rough edges on my fingernails, and I don't always have a fresh manicure, or sometimes I do and my nails are a little pointy from that. So gloves are great for that as well. Also, you can do a little, sexy nurse role play if you want. I'm not here to tell you how to have a good time. So, then I like to do circles around the clit. The head of the clit is a really, really, really nerve dense spot. Okay, it can be a little too much to go straight on it. A lot of people like it to be stimulated through the clitoral hood. or around the clit, because it actually goes back into a shaft and then splits into 2 chambers like this. I brought visual aids. So this like dark black line is what you see on the outside, and then these gray areas, that's the shaft, the clitoral legs, and these 2 chambers are called the vestibular bulbs. And as you can see, they hug the vaginal opening. So there's the opening of the vagina, that's the urethra. This is what it looks like from the side. So it like goes back and then around. So you're actually stimulating a clit when your fingers are going in and out, or when a penis is going in and out, or a toy is going in and out. And the back of what people call the G-spot is actually the back of the clit, plus the urethral sponge, which is a spongy tube of tissue that surrounds your urethra. All of these things get erect, they get swollen when there's more blood flow to the area, which is something that THC helps with. THC is a vasodilator, so all those blood vessels and capillaries expand, bringing more blood flow, increasing sensation, increasing tissue suppleness, which especially as people are getting older, as we're getting into perimenopause, menopause years, the tissue is more delicate, so having it really engorged with blood is really a protective feature as well as a pleasure feature, so it's kind of a win on all levels. And so I like to go around the clit because you're still getting the shaft, you're still getting like the top of the legs and the bulbs. And if they're like, no, I want like direct clitoral stimulation, then do that. But pretty much not till they're like, I want direct clitoral stimulation, because otherwise it could be really intense. I also like to do a lot right on the outside of the vaginal opening. This is also a puppet. You're welcome. It's really a kindness, especially in the world that we live in, to ask permission before you enter. Even if somebody's already consented, even if they're like, no, I want to have sex with you, I want you to give me a pussy massage, it's still nice to say, are you ready for me to go inside of you? Like, I would encourage that. That is definitely not a thing that I see a lot in the wild. Sometimes it's really nice when it happens. I would like to see it happen every single time. I want to be like, stop asking, right? Like, I want you to be so concerned about consent and care so much about me feeling safe that I'm like, no, it's fine, blanket consent, just go. Like, at that point, you're solid. So when I'm going to be playing around the opening, I'll be like, is it okay for me to play around the opening? I'm not going to go all the way in yet. Or would you also like me to go in? Like, I just like to check in when we're at the entrance. So I take 2 fingers and I treat it like a clock, right? So even before I start like really stimulating, I will start at 12 o'clock and just push straight up, sometimes just 1 finger to start. Press on 12, press on 1, press on 2, press on 3, all the way around the clock. You will notice that some numbers you're like, oh, 6 though, okay. Oh, 8, wouldn't have thought it, but sure enough, I really like when you press on 8. Okay, and then just keep mental notes, right? Like, oh, these spots are really sensitive. What I see a lot is 12 is a spot, and 6, 7, and 8. Or 6, 7, and 4 are spots. So I do a lot right on the opening, like kind of a half moon, right? Like this. And then I'll do the same thing on the top and do kind of a like window washer, half moon situation on top. And that can feel really freaking awesome. Even before you're like deep inside, because most of the nerve endings of the vagina are within the first inch or 2. Mostly because of the vestibular bulbs, because that's where they kind of are. Once you get deeper inside, like, yeah, some people really like their cervixes played with. Some people like, deep anterior or posterior pressure, like around their cervix. Anterior just means front, posterior is back. Everybody's different, but for my money, I'm really very much in this first third. That's the best spot for me. I'm going to pass this around so you guys can look closer. So if there gets to a point where your receiver is like, okay, I think I would actually, like, I feel like I'm building toward an orgasm. I feel like I would like to have that release. That would feel really good for me. Then you kind of start playing back your greatest hits. So, oh, they really liked it when I was rubbing around the clit. All right, let me do that. The point at which they're grabbing sheets and they're like, oh my God, I'm going to come soon. This is not the time to freestyle. Okay, right? Like, this is the time to keep the fucking tempo, exactly what you were doing, same speed, same motion, keep doing it until they're like, okay, stop now. Because what I have seen so many times is I'm like, oh my God, I'm gonna come. And they start completely doing something wildly different than anything they've done up to this point. They're like suddenly using two hands and speeding way up, and I'm like, what are you doing? I was right here and now I'm way over here. So keep the tempo. Keep doing whatever you're doing when they say, I think I'm gonna come soon, just keep doing that. And then afterwards, some people want you to keep rubbing through the orgasm, and some people are like, as soon as they crest the wave, they're like, you stop moving, I'm gonna ride the wave the rest of the way, and you're just gonna stay still. So check in with your partner, like, because there are some very notable features of an orgasmic or climatic experience. There tends to be like and then like kind of a release of sorts. There can be trembling, there can be convulsing in various forms, or there can just be like right? But there's usually some indication. Or if nothing else, you will see or feel contractions, because an orgasm is nothing more than involuntary muscle contractions. So once that happens, you bring them back down to earth slowly. You breathe with them. You give kisses and sweetness and love-ins and whatever feels good. You do not immediately go, okay, my turn. It's nice to kind of gently move into that space when they're ready. Maybe even let them be the one to say, can we do you now? I would love to show you some love. Or maybe that's the night and your turn is tomorrow. That's cool too. So that is everything you need to know about pussy massage in 25 short minutes. And now we're going to switch to dicks. Because pussy comes first. Dicks are great. I love them. They're just, especially when I've volunteered to see or touch them. Not so much when they show up in my inbox spontaneously, which happens a lot in my line of work. But they're wonderful. Especially big love to my uncircumcised cocks. They do not get nearly enough love in the US, but they are great. We love an uncircumcised dick. Circumcised are cool too, but like foreskin, it's a good one. So the first thing I think is helpful for everyone to know about penises is that the clit and the penis are anatomically the same. Whereas the clit is 90% internal, the penis is 90% external, which means there is still 10% inside that often gets neglected with dicks. We do a lot of this focus. This is what we see in porn. We do, sucking dick is just up and down. It only goes to here and not even there sometimes if we have high gag reflex. So we forget that there's still shaft inside that you can play with that feels really good to stimulate. And the balls can feel really good to stimulate if you have someone who enjoys having their balls played with. But often, especially if you don't have a pair of your own balls, you can feel very intimidated by balls. Because all we've been told our whole lives is like they are so sensitive and you're gonna hurt them and like be like you're handling glass, right? And in reality, the entire package, they have been yanking on, twisting, abusing as long as they can reach it, okay? So as long as you are not trying to hurt it, you're probably not going to. That said, we don't twist, we don't yank, we don't squeeze like you're squeezing a stress ball. Like that's not polite. I still think that kind of falls under the trying to hurt it, but sometimes people just like don't know how strong they are. So I like to calibrate touch with dicks and like, all right, I'm going to start squeezing and I want you to tell me how hard you want me to squeeze as I'm stroking. I'm going to start stroking and I want you to tell me how hard to stroke as I'm touching you. And then you can always recalibrate as things go. I typically find as penis owners get closer to climax, they do tend to like a little bit more speed and pressure to kind of push them over the edge, but not all are like that. So checking in is really important. When it comes to THC oil applied topically, it just doesn't do a lot for dicks. I'm so sorry to tell you. Like, smoking, cool. Edibles, cool. Suppositories, excellent. You can stick weed in your ass and like life's gonna be groovy. But it pretty much, unless you like dunk your dick in a jar of oil for 20 minutes, it's not gonna do a lot for you, for most people. So sorry, y'all are a little bit SOL on that one. You get a lot of things in the world, so you know, it's fine. The most sensitive area of the penis and areas are as follows. The head or the glands, this corresponds to the head of the clit. So this can be very like too sensitive if you get too intense on it, especially for those who are uncircumcised, because their foreskin covers it most of the time, so it's extra super duper sensitive. Whereas a circumcised dick is rubbing against their underwear or their jeans or their hands all day long. So it's a little bit more desensitized to direct stimulation than somebody who's covered with foreskin all the time. So just know, less is more a lot of the time. I have some moves that I'm going to show you that will sometimes send your receiver into convulsions, which is fun. You do sometimes need to assure them that they are not, in fact, having a seizure. That's also fun. A little bit of an ego boost there. This part right here is called the frenulum. It is covered with foreskin if your penis is uncircumcised, but if it is circumcised, this is where the foreskin would have attached in a past life. Tons and tons of nerves right there. So this like top 10% or so, depending on how big the rest of it is the most nerve dense area. That is not to say that you should neglect the rest. I believe in the whole package, much like, in the pubic mound, going behind the balls. I like to do this kind of move with my thumb and forefinger behind the balls like this, that. And then I'm putting pressure with like this part of my hand into that shaft, and I'm actually squeezing the shaft of the internal cock with my hands like this. Often I am the first person to have ever done that to my partner, and they're like, what the fuck is that? Which, is a response that I'm generally going for. You can also go take 2 fingers on either side of the bottom of the shaft and like down into, so like the balls are going to be kind of hanging down here a little bit more. You can stimulate shaft this way as well, or with your thumb and finger. Also, good to know that the penis does not have to be hard to enjoy stimulation. A lot of people with penises get very in their heads about being hard or coming too fast, or like, what if I lose my erection halfway through? It happens. It just happens. And so if you don't panic, they won't panic, hopefully. And if they do start to panic and you stay calm, you will help de-escalate their panic and just be like, hey, I'm still having a good time whether you're hard or not. It's going to feel just as good when I do a lot of these things if you're hard or not. And it's cool. Like, we're good here. So that can be very reassuring for a penis owner to hear, so that they can really relax and be present. You can do all the same moves. You just have to make little adjustments. And all of the moves that I'm going to show you, it genuinely does not matter how much real estate you have. It doesn't matter if it's a 3-inch dick or a 10-inch dick. You just are using more or less of your hand, right? If it's smaller, you might be using thumbs and fingers. If it's bigger, you might be double fisting, right? So it really doesn't matter. I know people with penises feel a lot of pressure to be big and thick and strong and hard and all the things, and like, you just don't. there's somebody who is so excited that your dick is small, like genuinely. They're great for anal. Like truly. Like, oh, thank God. There's no way that 10 incher is going in my ass. Like, so there's really a lid for every pot. You don't have to be self-conscious about your body. Whatever you got is fine. You can make it work, especially if you have mad hand skills. So, lube with all things are possible through lube. Have you heard the good news? For dicks especially, I'm a silicone girl or an oil girl. Water-based lube just absorbs way too quickly to make it awesome. So one of my favorite moves is what I call the pepper grinder. Significant amounts of lube, like more than you think. And then you take it and you twist in opposite directions as you squeeze up and down the shaft. That can feel super awesome. I like to hold the shaft in one hand at the base, squeeze, 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 pull off the top, squeeze, 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 pull off the top. So I call this the bottle rocket. Then I do the same thing in reverse. I make a fist, push the cock into my fist, and then do that repeatedly. This is the waterfall. The move that makes them convulse, that I have heard from multiple people, not just people I've slept with, but people I've taught this to, and then they've taken home to their partners, is what's called the juicing the lemon move. So you turn your hand into like this kind of shape, you go over the head and you make circles like this. It can be intense. So you want to use it sparingly, especially if they're like, what the fuck? Like, do a couple swipes, do something else. Or if you're a little bit of a sadist, you just keep doing this until they explode. You know, your mileage may vary, but like you're here to make them feel as good as they can for as long as possible if you're following my method. So I would say take your time with it. Do it sparingly. I also like one where you hold the dick in your hands like this and you swipe back and forth over the frenulum. This I call the window washer move. Which is a really nice one. I like to make an okay sign, put it right here. This is the coronal ridge. You don't have to remember that. I just want you to know that I know what it is. Make an okay sign and twist, or you make an okay sign and kind of pop your fingers back and forth over the coronal ridge while you're, again, holding the base. So that can be a super fun move. I also like to I call them jellyfish tentacles. Like I kind of make this like motion with my fingers over the balls and just, again, very lubed. So I'm not lubed and you can see how my hands are dragging and like, this is not optimal, right? This is what not to do without lube. Right? But yeah, I like to kind of stroke the balls like that. I like to, if your hands are big enough, my hands are pretty small, so it kind of depends on how big their balls are. But I like to take and put my thumb and middle finger together and kind of make like a cock ring with my fingers. And then do different things, like I'll scritch the balls, or I will like massage over them, or I will do that kind of jellyfish tentacle move that way. You can also, if their the skin of their scrotum is still kind of loose, like sometimes it gets very constricted, and so it's harder to do this then, but if it's still pretty loose, I will take it between my fingers and thumb and just like massage it that way. Or sometimes I will take it and kind of lay it over the shaft and then like stroke it that way. My friend Reed Mahalko calls that the flying squirrel move. All of these names are so absurd, but it will help kind of jog your memory when you're like, what was that thing? And then you're like, oh yes, like, flying squirrel. I also like to do like just my fingertips all over the shaft and like make little circles and kind of go up and down with just my fingertips. And sometimes I'll do like a deeper pressure, and sometimes I'll go really light, this almost kind of breath of wind, like slow, etheric touch, which is also like a fun way. I consider hand sex to be meditative, both as the giver and the receiver. And so you're kind of in a space where you're like, wow, I'm floating. This feels so good. I feel really cared for. And as the giver, you're like, I'm just gonna like you're playing jazz music, right? Like their dick is or their pussy is your instrument, and you are just riffing and figuring out how to make music. So, questions so far about any of those moves? We've got about 10 minutes left. Please.
So when you're doing the moves and you're holding the shaft, is it possible to replace that with a cock ring and then still do that same movement? Would that be like a similar sensation, or is that different?
Absolutely. So for those listening who might not have heard that question, the question was, can you use a cock ring to kind of hold the shaft instead of holding it with one hand? Would that change the sensation? So the answer is yes, you absolutely could. It will change the sensation slightly. But for sure, especially if you're using a cock ring properly, which a lot of people think a cock ring just goes around the cock itself. It does not. It goes around the cock and behind the balls so that it kind of pushes these together a little bit. If they are like rock hard and the cock ring is a pretty substantial one, like it's sturdy and it's got a little bit of like girth to it, it will probably hold it up well enough. It's not going to be the same as when you've got like your hand wrapped around and you're putting pressure and squeezing. It'll be a little bit of a different flavor note, but not to say that it's better or worse. It's just different. But yeah, you could absolutely use a cock ring as a partner in crime for this. There's these amazing things called O-nuts, OHNUTS. It's a company that actually designed them to be like dick bumpers, because sometimes you have a partner who is longer than you are deep and you want to stop it from going in all the way because you don't want to get your cervix slammed if that's not something you enjoy. But it turns out, and so you can stack it, like there's 1 ring, 2 rings, like however much real estate you need to take up, that's available for you. But you can also use them as cock rings. So I have done like 2 on the balls and 1 on the shaft, or I've like stretched, they're pretty stretchy, so you can use them as like actual normal cock rings for hand jobs. And you can also use them as a stroker. If you put like 3 or 4 of them on the shaft, you can pull it up and down the cock, which is a fun little, like, I fully believe that if you are touching it, it's still hand sex. So if you're holding a toy, a vibrator, things like that, cocks can enjoy vibrators just as much as pussies can. So you can put them, a vibrator, like a wand, behind the balls, on the head, above the pubic mound, like lots of options there, which is really fun to kind of explore. And then at any point, if you do want to incorporate oral skills, you totally can. You can be stroking and squeezing and sucking just the head. And then all of a sudden you don't have as much pressure to deep throat because you've got your hand kind of stroking the bottom of the shaft. So it's really a win for everybody.
Can you speak to like strains and
yeah, absolutely.
Like, what to look for, what to stay away from?
Sure.
Using cannabis and sex?
Yes. So when it comes to strains, it's a completely individual preference. If you line up, if I asked all of you what your favorite strain for sex is, you'd each tell me a different one. Right. Right. One person said GG4. For me, that is how I go to sleep at night. So GG4 is not going to be what I reach for sexy times. I'm much more on the like Jack, Lilac, Diesel side most of the time. Once way back, Forbidden Fruit was one of my like jams. Anything in that like Purple Punch family is like the shit. Oh, Whitethorn Rose is great. So like it really just depends on what you like, what terpene profiles you like. That's, I think, more to pay attention to than strain itself, because especially if you're going across different growers, like this person's GG4 strain may have a completely different terpene profile than this other grower's GG4 strain. So you want to really pay attention to the grower themselves, and so when you're writing down your strains and products, like write down the strain name and who grew it. That's going to be really helpful for you. Also, when I think about sex and cannabis, I tend to use a less is more approach. So 2.5 to 5 milligram edibles are better than 10 milligram edibles. 12 to 18% THC is better than 25+% THC. All a higher THC percentage really means is it is going to get you closer to too much faster. It's not a better high. It doesn't mean it's a better strain or a better product. It just means that it's got more THC in it, which is not always a good thing for most people. So for my money, and one of my colleagues is Dr. Jordan Tischler, who's a Harvard MD who specializes in cannabis medicine. We have both shared, and research tends to favor like lower percentage THC is better for sex specifically, because you want to have the enhancing qualities, but not the anxiety, the shakiness, the rapid heart rate, the feeling disconnected from your body. Dry mouth, right. Hydrate. Have lozenges nearby. And
what about cannabinoids? Like which specific cannabinoids are beneficial?
Great question. CBG is a great one. It tends to be on the like embodying, stimulating side. CBD is always going to be good for inflammation and kind of helping to chill a little bit, but in isolation, CBD is basically useless. So you always want to have like some THC or other cannabinoids with it, kind of grease the skids a little bit. THCV is a very like energizing cannabinoid. So if you're looking for a little pick me up and you want to have more energetic sex, like that is one you could reach for. But some people feel like it's too energetic and it's like, okay, now I want to clean my house. I don't want to have sex. So it really is like what's going to work best for your body in this context. So know your terpene profiles, know your THC percentages, make sure you get it from an amazing grower like Glass House and Plus Gummies. Part of the reason I'm here is because I love these products. These are the ones that I reach for, and they're really, really great quality. You can tell that there's love that goes into every single flower that is grown, and the effects match that. So yeah, figuring out which strains and which terpene profiles work best for you is really useful. I actually typically avoid diesels at all costs, but lilac diesel smokes like a jack for me. So that works for me. It doesn't get me anxious. It doesn't freak me out. It's a wonderful, pleasant high. But if I was just like, oh, I don't do diesels at all, ever, I would have missed out on this amazing strain. So don't go by strain names, go by terpene profiles. As soon as I saw terpinolene in the lilac diesel list of terpenes, I was like, oh, that's going to be fine. That's a jack terp. Like that works for me. So know what works for your body and understand that it will change over time. Because the things that I smoked 10 years ago are not the things I smoke today. One, because you can't find them, but also because like my body chemistry and tolerance has changed. And so, really being in a place of curiosity of like, who am I today? What do I need today? What does my partner need today? And what's going to be most of service to us in co-creating the experience that we want to have, so that we feel really held and nourished and cared for and satisfied at the end of our play. Questions?